Hi, everybody. I'm Gabby from Microsoft.
And I'm Erin from Craig Hospital.
We are here today to give you a very quick overview of the new adaptive accessories that Microsoft launched last year. If you want more information and more detail, there is a URL there and also an email that you can contact. We are going to start with the Microsoft Adaptive Mouse. It is a small mouse core, about 55 millimeters square, about 10 millimeters tall. It's very small, very lightweight, less than half the weight of a traditional mouse. And it's great to use on its own. I use it as a travel mouse, but if you wanted something different, the back of the mouse actually pops off, little eject button on the bottom. And you could do something like attach a traditional mouse tail. So this is the Microsoft Adaptive Mouse tail. Clicks right in.
Get a little bit closer.
Clicks right in, and you have just a traditional mouse with a thumb support. If you're left-handed, the thumb support does swap. You can create a left-handed mouse. Our software will even let you switch these two buttons if you want a true left-handed mouse. If a traditional mouse doesn't work for you, the same principle applies to this, to a 3D printed part. So I have here a 3D printed, just a flat tail attachment, and it clicks right in, and then you have a flat mouse. There's a lot of different, so you can see on there, a lot of different 3D printed options you could have that are available. So it's a very adaptive mouse.
I will jump in with just a couple of other examples from clinical practice. I think one of the examples that we talked about at the booth yesterday involved someone who had a limb difference and was maybe experiencing some repetitive strain from using a traditional mouse all the time with their intact limb. And so they found that this was maybe a little bit small or a little bit of a strain. So by attaching this tail, it allowed them to rest it on the table with a flat palm with a neutral wrist and mouse, and actually found that significantly reduced their pain and their repetitive strain over the course of the day. A little bit of another use case. So I primarily work with individuals with spinal cord injury in my field of work. And once in a while we will get someone with maybe a incomplete injury or maybe a cauda equina style injury, where maybe they have a lot of proximal loss of movement, but maybe just a little bit of movement in their fingers, hands, right? You can actually configure the sensitivity of this mouse. You're going to know the details in terms of...
Very high.
Very high. You can make this
DPI.
very high, and that's my OT version of it. The engineer over here is saying it's 6,000 DPI. However that lands. And so in that use case, I have had individuals where we could rest this maybe on the palmar support or the lap tray of their chair. And again, if they just have a little bit of finger movement and maybe trace hand movement, it's actually sensitive enough to do that. The other thing is the buttons are very touchy, very sensitive. And in that case, it does not take a lot of force to press those mouse click buttons.
All right, so that's the adaptive mouse part of the accessories. The second part of the accessories starts with the Microsoft Adaptive Hub. You can kind of think of this as a switch input hub. It is quite small, very portable, fully wireless with an internal rechargeable battery. It's about 110 millimeters long, about 20 millimeters wide, and about 15 millimeters tall. And it works with our adaptive buttons, which I'll get to in just a second, but it also does have 5 3.5 millimeter ports along one side for anybody to use standard assistive tech switches that you can just plug in. The switches will work the same way as our buttons do, just as a single switch, but any of the things I tell you about the buttons that you can set them to, you can do with a traditional switch. So we have this wireless hub. And then what you can pair with the wireless hub is one of our Microsoft adaptive buttons. So this is a wireless button to a wireless hub, which can then connect to your device, so PC, phone, or tablet. What's great about the buttons, beyond just being wireless, is there's actually 8 inputs on this, on each of the facets of the D-pad. And each of those inputs can be configured differently. In the Microsoft Accessories Center, it can be configured to something as small as just a keystroke or a mouse action, or you could even do a very, very complex macro, as many steps as you want, and you can do that all just with a button click. We do have 3 different toppers. There's the D-pad topper, the dual button topper, and the joystick topper. If these don't work for you, we also have 3D printing options for these. With a little simple twist, the topper comes off, and there's a 3D printed topper you can purchase. You have to line it up. Clicks right in. And same with the joystick. If this joystick stem doesn't work for you, just unscrew it. Get a 3D printed version. Line it up. And you attach it. Examples.
Yeah, so again, to Gabby's point, you think about this as the hub, right? This is going to connect to the device that you're controlling. The buttons are going to connect to the hub, and you can customize this, and we won't go into this in depth today, but you can, in this session, but you can program these to do any mouse or keyboard function. I think as an OT, one of the things that excites me about this is we're used to taking a product and adapting it to fit our needs. This has the hooks or the details or the pieces built into that, so it's much easier to do, right, in terms of easy ability to pop off that top, put on a new topper, 3D print your own option. So we talked about the mouse, but the other thing I will say is, or I will highlight, that this can actually function as a mouse, right? So because it has those 8 digital switches within it, it gives you the directional movement to actually program it to do mouse functions on a computer. So if this doesn't work for your user, but they're used to using something more like a joystick on their power wheelchair, this can be their mouse. And again, this can pair to up to 3 different devices. So it can be their mouse on their computer, and then toggle over to be their mouse on their tablet, and then toggle over to be a mouse on their phone if that's how they choose to access. So I think that's really cool. The switches themselves, buttons. When you get into keyboard commands and shortcuts, you can really talk about ways to make someone more efficient and productive, which again, when you're looking at return to work after an injury, efficiency can be a big deal in success, right? So being able to program things like macros, multi-step commands to open programs, input text, snip, copy, paste. I mean, anything you can do with a keyboard, you can program into this button. And again, use this button across all of your devices. So a lot of bang for your buck. From a therapy perspective, a lot of access and use options for your end user. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so clinically we've talked about using this to do things like open a program, pull up an email, and drop in some auto text of an email that maybe you send all the time, right? That's a pretty easy, quick way to do that with just maybe multiple functions. You also can use this to launch things like your voice speech recognition software, right? You can toggle this to be your microphone on or off button if you know the keystroke to that. So you can pair this with other assistive technologies to make the user faster, to pick up for, maybe your speech recognition software that you're using is not consistently picking up the sleep or wake commands for your user. You can pair that to a button and make that much quicker. Yeah.
So in addition to being able to connect the hub to 3 devices, PC, phone, or tablet, you can connect up to 4 of these wireless buttons to the hub at any time. There are also other, maybe if these smaller hit areas aren't great, there are larger hit areas that I can drop. I swear this goes on. There we go. Nope. Takes a minute to line it up. Why can't I get this? Why can't I get that? There we go. There we go. So now this is a larger hit area for someone to hit. The question we get a lot on these is battery life. So the adaptive hub with typical use will last 2 weeks or more. The adaptive mouse with typical use will last about 6 months, and the adaptive buttons with the typical use will last more than 6 months. So a lot of battery life built into these. They all have a rechargeable battery. They're all intended to be wireless. You can wire them if you want, but they are intended to be wireless. On the bottom of the device, there are actually zip tie channels built in, so if you want to zip tie it down to something, you can. There's a large flat area to use Velcro. I know how much we all love Velcro. And then finally, price points, because I know that always comes up. The adaptive mouse is $45. The adaptive tail with a thumb support is $15. Adaptive hub is $60, and each of the buttons are sold separately. They are $40 each. And now we can actually take questions, if you have any, or if you're bored. That's cool too. Do you want to go? Do you want to go?
Do you want to take the lapel down, or yeah? Does this come off? This comes off. Oh, there you go. For next one.
Oh, God. The question was, is there a name for the actual button? So these are the Microsoft Adaptive buttons. So there's a modifier in them, Microsoft Adaptive D-pad button, Microsoft Adaptive Dual button, and Microsoft Adaptive Joystick button. But really, they're all the same. The base is the same among all of them, and it's just you're purchasing a different topper with it. And then there will be a link to Shapeways, who is our 3D printing partner, where you can get some of the designs that we have designed for them, or you can download the step file and take the interface and design or print it yourself. So that you'll find everything there. Tried to make it easy. aka.ms/adaptive accessory. Accessories.
So great question. The question is, where can you find the downloadable files? Again, if you follow the link to Adaptive Accessories, if you scroll down on that landing page, you're going to find a link that discusses the 3D printable items that's going to take you to the Shapeways website. As you're looking at each of the printable items, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there should actually be the file. Now, that's only going to work if you're getting to it from a PC. You're not going to be able to see those downloadable files from a mobile device. Gabby's going to take us through the process here.
So this is the site you will eventually find, and you can see we've got a bunch of different options. We also have adaptive pen grips that we weren't talking about during this session, but let's say I want this circular D-pad. So you can have it printed through Shapeways. They are a very high-quality industrial 3D printer. They're one of the best in the business, which is why we partnered with them. But if you don't want to go through them, there's this link here, download product. So you just click download product, and it will download the step file. And so that would be how you get to the 3D printed attachments.
Answer this, but I'll ask it. So great question in terms of how many years has Microsoft been working on the Adaptive Accessories kit, and what sort of impact are we seeing or anticipating with its rollout?
So this particular product is about 3 years of a development cycle, from when we first started talking about it to now. Obviously, it released last October. As far as adaptive hardware, we've been working on it for over 6 years. We do have a session that's a longer session with more jokes in Caribbean at 4:30. No, I'm wrong. Somewhere at 4:30, where we'll have even more examples as well. So that's about how long we've been working on it. As far as impact, even if we just look at the beta audience we had during development, it has changed how they do things. We have one beta participant who is limb different, who is a graphic designer and does voiceover work, and she has told us that these adaptive accessories have made her more than 30% faster in what she does because she can find so many shortcuts. So we know that these are helping remove the barrier that a traditional mouse and keyboard might have for people with limited mobility.
And our session at 4:30 will be in Caribbean 5. So hopefully we'll see you there.
As an engineer, I cannot speculate on number of people. I hope lots and lots, but I have no idea. Oh, the question was, how many people do you think will download this? And I don't know. I'm just happy they exist. Any other questions? So the question was, does this work on other platforms? So the answer is yes. It's a mouse and keyboard, so it will work wherever a traditional mouse and keyboard will work. You do need to configure the hub and buttons on a Windows PC. Right now, the software is only on Windows. But once you've configured it, you can take it to another platform, and if you come at 4:30, we'll show you how to do that.
We're going to do a full walkthrough at 4:30. The only other thing I will mention to that point is remember this hub can be paired to up to 3 different devices. So you can be paired to your Windows computer, your iPad, your Android phone, all with this device and toggle between them.
And when you toggle, it takes the buttons with it, so you don't need to repair everything. You just switch and it's a nice, big, large Bluetooth button on the top of the hub. You switch that, and you are on your merry way. Any final questions? Thank you for your attention.